Hey guys, I've really been needing to do this video for a while, and I've kind of been putting it off, to be honest. I'm not really sure why. I just have. So anyway, I want to tell you about moving to Montana and how that all played out and what all worked out and what all happened. So here goes. So in 2011, Jeremy and I felt like God was calling us to move to Montana. And the reason being is we felt like God was telling us to go into full-time ministry there in a town called Hungry Horse. Another couple from our community was there doing mission work, and we were going to a church at the time, and they had been on a mission trip there. So when they came back from their mission trip, the service was all about what they did there, and they shared pictures, and they did all these things. And like, I just felt this strong urge, and Jeremy explained that he felt the same way, to go there, to be there. And so as I'm sitting there doing that service, I'm thinking, okay, Lord, when they go on their mission trip next summer, we'll go with them, and that wasn't exactly what God meant. So after praying and really kind of agonizing over it and talking to this couple, and we realized we were supposed to be there, like full-time ministry, be there. I was not working at the time. Jeremy had a really, really good paying job, and I didn't have to work. And, if you've watched my infertility video, it was around that time that we thought we were going to start a family, and obviously that didn't work out. But so we felt like we were supposed to move there, and so we had a conversation. We'd been praying about it secretly, I guess you'd say, because I'm like, Lord, this can't be. Like, I can't be hearing you correctly. And finally, we talked about it one night, and Jeremy's like, I think we're supposed to move there. I think we're supposed to be there. And I remember we were in the car. We were coming home from somewhere, and I remember just looking at him like, oh my gosh. And he's like, I know it's crazy. And I'm like, it's not crazy, because I've been feeling the exact same way. And I want to say here that I think, and this is me, my opinion, I don't think that God will call you to something and not call your spouse. Now, I don't mean like working in the church, you have to do the same jobs. I don't mean things like that. But I mean a move like that. I don't think that God won't have your spouse on board also. Now, that sometimes takes time. That takes prayer. I'm not saying you'll be called at the same time, but that is what happened with us. And so we got our plans in order. Everyone thought we were nuts. We told our families, and we did it. I don't really remember a lot of the initial reactions. No one was disapproving. I'm trying to think of the way to say it. Disapproving to our face. I know that people didn't really understand, I guess. And so anyway, we were going to do the music ministry at a church up there. They didn't have anyone that did the music, and that's what we felt like we were going to do. And we moved. It was like 2,200 miles away, 24, somewhere in there, to a little town called Hungry Horse. And if you know where Glacier National Park is, it's like 15 minutes from there. And we moved in July of 2011, and we basically got rid of everything we had, and we packed up in our Jeep and we took off. And so it was crazy. It was the hardest, up to that date, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I've never been away from my family, and it was difficult. So we moved there, and everything was wonderful. We fell in love with the people, and I'm skipping over some of this for time's sake, but it was awesome. It was amazing. And we lived solely off what people gave. Our families gave monthly, and 2 of our local churches gave monthly, and we literally lived off what people gave, and we had a good life. We were full-time ministry. I began working with the kids when we got there. We were working in the youth ministry on Wednesday nights, and I can get deeper into that in another video, but it was amazing, and we met some amazing people, and we literally, like, got a second family out of it. Like, we built our own little Montana family, and I still feel that way about them, and it was awesome. It was so awesome, and everything was great, and I get a lot of people that ask if we worked while we were there. We were working in full-time ministry. We worked more than we ever worked. You weren't really off. You weren't, there was so many times we'd be like, we're taking a off day tomorrow, and it would be like our break day to just rest and refresh and rejuvenate and connect with each other, and we'd get a phone call, and we would be off doing something else, but we tried really hard to have like our break day to just rejuvenate and rest. And I did babysit while I was there, so I did make a little money there, but other than that, we were solely off what people gave in donations, and people were amazing. People were supportive. We sent out newsletters, we sent out emails, letting people know what we were doing and what was going on, and it was just amazing. And we worked at a church called Canyon Baptist Church, and it had an apartment attached to it, so we lived in the apartment attached to it, and just awesome, just an awesome experience. So we did not pay for that, I want to say that up front. And Canyon Baptist didn't pay us, but what they did was they paid for our insurance, which was a huge blessing and expensive. You think, oh, well, they didn't even pay them, but paying for our insurance was huge, and it was such a blessing, and we're just so thankful for the ways they took care of us and helped us while we were there, and they are awesome. They are an awesome group of people, and so we were there, and then in 2013, we felt like God was telling us to move home. And I know that when you hear that, you think, that is amazing. You had to be over the moon excited and all these things, and it's going to make me cry. I'm sorry, guys. When I think back to that time, what I remember the most is being absolutely devastated. I did not want to move back. I knew that that's what God wanted me to do, but I did not want to do it. And we didn't really understand what we were supposed to be doing when we came back. There wasn't a clear set goal. We knew that Jeremy would have to find a job, and we just didn't understand God's plan. We felt like God was saying, you need to move back home, but then we're like, but what then? And a lot of times when God calls us to something, He doesn't show us the whole staircase. He's waiting on us to take that first step, and then maybe then you can see the next step, and then He doesn't always show you the big huge picture. Sometimes He does, of course, but He doesn't always. And in this situation, I definitely feel like I couldn't see the whole staircase. I couldn't see besides that, move back, which was the first step. I couldn't see beyond that, and it was devastating and scary. And I know that this sounds crazy because moving there should have been devastating and scary, but the thought of moving home, we had made that home. It was difficult. It was so hard, guys. And we had came home and visited, and had some great visits with our family. But the thought of moving home and not knowing like what then, it terrified me. And we knew that we just had to trust God, because we had trusted God to make this move to Montana, and look how amazing our life had turned out. And we had this incredible 2-year span of experiences, and we grew and we molded. And I have said so many times, and maybe I'll do a video about that later, but I have said so many times that it saved our marriage to get away from everybody and everything and just be together and be with God and be doing what He called us to do. It was just, I could never describe to you the experience and how incredible it was. And then to be giving it all up, and that's the way I felt, that we were giving it all up, and I didn't understand, and I didn't want this. I wanted to stay. And I remember wrestling with those feelings so often, and almost wrestling with God, and just begging Him, please, just change your mind. I don't want to go home. And I know that sounds ridiculous. But we had truly made Montana our home, and that's how I felt. And so in July of 2013, we moved home. We had, I don't want to say we didn't have anything, but we had moved out there. We had gave away and sold a lot of our things, and we had some things, don't get me wrong, but we had little compared to what we had before. And so I think that too was kind of really scary. And I know that makes me sound materialistic and horrible, but I'm just being honest here. So we ended up renting. On the way out there, we had pulled a U-Haul with like our bedroom suit and some of our things. So on the way home, we didn't want to pull a U-Haul. That was a hard trip. So on the way home, we rented one of the it's called a pod. And what it is you pack this pod, and like they ship it back for you. And then all your stuff goes into like a storage unit, and then you have like it's paid up for like a month. So we had a month before we had to pick it up. And so we moved home, and we stayed with my mother and father-in-law until we could find a place, and Jeremy could get a job and just figure things out. And so we did that, and leaving and the goodbyes, it was horrible. I remember when we told everyone, one Sunday we got up and we made the announcement, and I remember like when church was over, after like invitation, they had everyone come around and just hug on us and love on us, and we just cried and we cried. And it was so hard. And my heart was broken. And so we said our goodbyes and we came back home. And Corner's coming. Sounds like a herd of buffalo. You gonna talk to him? So we came back home, and anyway, I'm off track. He got me so sidetracked. The goodbyes and all that, it was awful. We came home, and Jeremy started looking for jobs, and I had babysitting lined up, so I started babysitting, and we still just didn't know what we were supposed to be doing. In the meantime, we had got a call from a friend, and he felt like he was supposed to plant a church in Sweetwater. And we didn't really, Sweetwater's only like 20 minutes from our hometown where we grew up, but we didn't know a whole lot about Sweetwater. And we thought we were going to go help work at a different church. And our friend called and was like, hey, God is calling me to plant this church, and I would like for y'all to pray about getting on board with me and helping me with this. And we were, I was like, no, we're not. We're doing this over here because I'm a planner, and I wanted a set plan of what we're doing. And that is not how this worked out at all. And I think this is why that this broke my heart, and I'm getting so emotional about it. I think this is why this was so hard, because even when we moved to Montana, we had a plan. We had a place we were going to live. We had what we were going to do, our jobs, and when we got there, of course, things changed. Things were different, but there was an initial plan. And coming home, there wasn't really an initial plan. So we told him we'd pray about it, and we prayed about it. And God said, yeah, that's what you're doing. So, and that is today the Fellowship Church, and that's where we still are and what we're still doing. And so that was definitely part of why God called us home and part of His plan. But when we moved home, because there wasn't a plan and because I'm a planner, I got really depressed. I was really sad. I just felt unsettled. I just felt, I don't even know how to describe it. I was just really down. Just, my heart was heavy all the time, no matter what. And, Jeremy ended up getting a job, and we ended up finding a place to rent, and we were helping with the Fellowship Church, and I was just still really depressed, and I was babysitting at the time, and I finally came to this point where I realized I need to get out of this house. Like, I need to interact with people, and as much as I didn't want, I'm just going to be honest, as much as I didn't want to work in the public again, because I had worked at Walmart years ago, and that scarred me for life. Anyway, maybe I should do a whole video on that sometime. But I knew I've got to, even if it's something part-time, something little, I've got to get out of this house. And so I ended up getting a job outside of the house, and that helped. That made me feel more settled. But in the meantime, we realized that God was calling us to adopt. And I poured all my time and my energy and my effort and everything I had went into this adoption. And I know that that's why God called us home, was for Connor. And I know, I'm not saying it couldn't have worked out if we had still been in Montana, but we didn't have, this is our income, and this is not, like, going to change. Our income fluctuated, and our income was relying on, it wasn't like, oh, I go in and I do a good job. Well, I guess it kind of was, but it wasn't like a 9-to-5 job where I go in and I do a good job, and I've been there all these years, and they're not going to get rid of me. It was we're relying on donations, and we're relying on the generosity of others, and there wasn't a stability as far as it's not going to change. And I just think that it would have been so difficult to prove income and to prove that we could take care of this child. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible, but anyway, I solely believe that God called us back because he was like, you about to be working on something different. You about to, I'm changing the course. And a lot of people thought we were moving home because maybe we were already pregnant, or maybe we were ready to start a family. There was a lot of speculation about me being pregnant around the time, and I obviously wasn't. But I even thought maybe God's calling us home, and it's going to work out, and we're going to have a baby. And He's calling us home so we can start our family. And he was through adoption. And anyway, the way it worked out ended up being perfect. But I will say that I was really depressed for a while until I needed to get a job outside the house and be interacting with other people. And once we surrendered to the call to adopt, and I poured all my time, energy, and everything I had into that. And then after that, I became a mother. Life got better. Life got good. And I'm no longer depressed. I'm no longer dealing with those unsettling feelings. But anyway, that's kind of the short version of how it all happened and what I went down. And I will say that and you can attest to this if you've ever lived away from home for any amount of time. When you come back, life went on without you while you were gone. And when you come back, your mind expects it to be the same place you left, and it's not. Everything here was different, and that was hard for me too. That was unsettling for me too. And that was part of my depression and my unsettled feeling, and I couldn't really adjust, and I couldn't really find my place. Hi. And a lot of that is why. Because life goes on when you're gone, and it is so difficult to find where you fit again. And we have, everything's great now, and we talk about Montana often, we think about Montana often, we definitely want to go visit, we definitely want all of our second family, as we call them, up there to meet Connor, and we definitely want to go back. It is our desire to go back to visit, and what the future holds, no one knows. I don't know if we'll live here forever. I don't know if God has another plan. I don't know. That's true with anyone. You kind of have to wait and see with God, because He has a way of really surprising you. But and He definitely did that with us, with Montana. And what a blessing it was, though. So it has gave me, I guess, a more, I wouldn't really say adventurous, because I wouldn't call myself adventurous, but it's gave me more confidence in just following what God's will and just stepping out in faith, because we had some of the most amazing years of our life come from doing just that. And it was scary, but it was awesome. And then if you had told us when we went out there in 2011 that in 2 years you're going to move back home, and you're not going to want to. You're going to be really mad at God that He's making you move back home, and you're going to be depressed and anxious, and you're going to cry more tears than you thought you had to cry, and you're going to be so upset about moving home. I would have been like, no, you're talking about someone else. But that's exactly how it happened. And we are just so thankful for our life and for our experiences and for all God has allowed us to do. And we forever cherish our time in Montana. We forever cherish everyone we met there, everyone we came to love there. And we definitely hope to visit soon. And God is good. I don't even know what else to say. It's just amazing. And it's just amazing to see how His handprints were on every single bit of it. And it was just some of the most beautiful times of our life. And if we miss it a lot, we talk about it all the time. And we talk about how, like, oh, Connor would love this or Connor would love that. And we do. We definitely miss it. And we talk about it a lot. But we have just been so blessed. And we're so thankful. And so as far as what the future holds, we're just going to have to wait and see, because I'm on that first step. I don't see that whole staircase. So we're just going to wait and see. Thanks, guys. Bye.